type station.
CBS.
All right, well,
And I think you couldn't get behind the lines.
That's
and you
right.
could, and
Yeah. Yeah. Good to see you again. Yeah.
This is John
Alex
Carroll.
with Fox 4 now in
Yeah,
Dallas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
How are you?
Cool.
Yeah, gosh, it's been a while already with West. Jeez. For a while, that was the story, yeah.
We were at Twin Buttes and some of those.
Yes, right. Make that seem like it was decades ago. Right?
That's the way those guys have something.
Yep.
Now it's this.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse. A bunch of bikers shooting themselves open, or a bunch of
University shooting itself
a bunch of Baptist Christians. Yeah.
We had the basketball thing too.
Yeah, that's what you mean.
That was about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Really just
The thing about that basketball thing was that it was really contested. We're talking about the guy and the coach. It's kind of like this thing. It's kind of
exactly. Not very much, but I'm not quite sure. It's part of our country, so yeah, that's how.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul. Yeah, good here.
Yeah, exactly.
Johnny, would you sit at the head of the table?
Sure.
Randy, I'm not going to put you,
You announcing for office?
Hey, Johnny.
Governor, can I get you to sit on the other side of the table?
Good to see you again. How you been? Good. That's your best side, Randy.
Would you rather have this one, Governor?
Okay, so just a second, I'm going to go ahead and.
Good morning.
I'm going to go ahead and put you on. Is everybody online? Yeah. Okay, great. Don't move that phone. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm John Eddie Williams with Bears for Leadership Reform, joined by Randy Ferguson, Governor Mark White. We just finished a 2-hour and 20-minute spirited discussion with 3 of the members of the Baylor Board of Regents. We asked a lot of questions. There were a lot of unanswered questions at the end of this meeting. One of the important questions we asked is, how much, in an aggregate sense, has this cost Baylor? And we were stonewalled on that question. They would not respond to us as to what this has cost. And we asked for them to tell us more about their secrecy oath, their agreement to remain silent and not speak. The Board of Regents asked them to provide us at least a copy of this secrecy oath, and they said that they will hopefully get us copies of that in the near future, and we appreciate that step by them. We also called for them to join us in supporting a joint investigation by an independent third party of all the facts and events surrounding what's been going on at Baylor. And this would be a comprehensive investigation that would also include the actions and conduct of the board. We go back to the Pepper Hamilton report that speaks of conflicts on the board, real and perceived, and we think that it's appropriate for somebody to look not only at some of the facts that Pepper Hamilton came up with, but take an independent look at the board and the administration so that we can start the healing process for the Baylor family. Governor, would you like to?
Well, I think that's a good recap of what went on. We left in good spirits on both sides. There was no acrimony in the sense of any bitterness or meanness. I think everybody was there with a view to try to make or to resolve the issues and the questions that have been asked, and they're legitimate questions about what went on, what are the facts. The trust issue is extremely important in every institution, but particularly in an institution that holds itself out as a Christian university, a Baptist university, one of which we're all proud. And for the board to be trusted is every bit as important for the board to trust its own alumni, its own staff, its faculty. And I think that we made that point. And as a result, I think we're going to see some positive reactions to what we're asking them to do. I believe that they understand the urgency. This is not something that's going to wait till next semester. It's something that we think that it should be and can be solved quickly. It's going to take their participation, cooperation, and leadership.
Thank you. Randy Ferguson has served on the board for many years and has a insider's perspective on how the board operates. Randy, any thoughts?
I think the meeting was good, spirited. I think the good thing is everybody there loves Baylor. That is the main interest that's at heart. I think it's positive that they did hear our questions. They've agreed to take those back to the board, and they've agreed to get back with us hopefully fairly quickly. And we'll have a chance to see if we can move forward. I think at least having the communications channel open is positive, and we'll look at that as a positive thing and hope to get positive results.
Drayton McClane asked me to let you know that he apologizes for not being able to be here. He is hosting a citizens luncheon in Temple, and since he's hosting it, he needed to be back on time. And if you have any follow-up calls with him, he'll welcome any inquiries for Drayton. But let me go back and emphasize that we have called upon the board, made the recommendation that for an independent investigation of all that has happened, including the conduct and the decision-making of the board and the administration. The three regents said they would take that proposal back to the board, and we want to participate in picking the investigator and the parameters of the investigation, and let's see what the true facts are and let the chips fall where they may. And we hope the board will join us in supporting an independent investigation so that we can let all the facts be known, hear from all parties involved, and then let the healing process begin. We emphasized to the regents that this issue is not going away. The distrust that many of the alumni have of the board is not going away, and that they need to solve it, and it is our recommendation you solve it with an independent investigation overseen by, where we have some input into how it's done, and somebody that we all can believe in that is truly independent to look at all the facts. Questions?
When you said
None. Okay.
when you said the end of this ultimately would be to get it solved, what's your definition of that, of having this solved?
I think we solve it by having the Baylor family know that what the true facts are, and then making sure that none of these horrific things ever happen again. Make sure that we've got the processes, the policies in place to protect students and to protect everybody on campus. And we make sure that our board has been reformed, where we have the quality leadership on the board to assure that these things happen, that we no longer have a gap of years and years and years between the federal government saying you must implement Title IX and the board taking any action to do it. You can't ignore these basic things like that for years and years, and that's the foundation of a lot of our problems.
That being said, with the board being implicated.
Can those of us on the phone ask a question? I don't know. Can you hear us?
Sure.
Yeah. Can I finish my follow-up?
There's a follow-up question, then we'll get to the person on the phone.
That being said, and the board being implicated in a lot of the concerns, do you find that it'll be difficult for them to agree to an independent investigation on themselves?
If they have nothing to hide, then they should embrace an investigation which will document that they've done the right thing. I hope, and I'm optimistic that they will embrace an independent investigation, and I hope that they understand the depth of the problems that we have at Baylor with the alumni, the students, and the faculty having the distrust that's been created. And only full transparency, I think, will heal that. Okay, on the phone, you had a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're asking for an independent investigation, and at the same time, the U.S. Department of Education is investigating. Is there overlap there? I mean, would you consider the U.S. Department of Education an independent investigator, and is there some value in letting that play out before bringing someone else in?
It is my opinion that would just we don't have any control about their timetable, the government, and what the scope of their investigation would be, and because you don't know their scope and timetable, I do not believe that's the solution. I believe we have to have somebody that can have a wide open scope of inquiry and get this done quickly and efficiently, and then we'll let us all know what the facts are from an independent source that we all can believe in.
Mr. Williams.
Can I just quick follow up on that? Is there a risk in doing that while there are still 4 lawsuits pending?
I can address that. I'm a lawyer. I've represented people all of my career, and the truth is going to come out. It is. I don't understand people saying, "Is there a risk?" The only risk is that the truth will all come out, and it's going to come out if people are doing their jobs. So I don't see that as a barrier to having a full and complete investigation, because that's what the court systems are for, is to get all the facts out. So I think we should get it all on the table.
Twice y'all have spoken out to the media. I think the first time on November the 10th when you launched the BLR, and immediately after this meeting, your meeting with the media. That is totally in contrast than what we have been dealing with the Board of Regents. Each time they have a meeting or do anything, we're not able to get answers, even those of us who are right there. Have you talked with them more about being even more and more transparent? I mean, I know that's the word. It just seems to be the byline all along, but all the way down to just, will these conversations that they're having with you, we're hearing it from you. Will we hear it from them?
That is an excellent question. As I said back when we met in Waco, it should be one of the members of the Board of Regents, should be the chairman of the Board of Regents sitting in this chair, addressing the press, addressing the family, the Baylor family. Because of their lack of transparency, we have to do this. if they would do it, I'd love nothing better than to be at home doing something else, doing some Christmas shopping.
So if they decide to not accept, you said you're hoping for a quick decision or a quick turnaround on all this. So what if they just drag their feet or don't want an independent investigation?
Well, what happens if they say no to an independent investigation?
Yes, sir.
At that point, we've got to continue to keep the pressure and the heat on them. Why would you not accept an independent investigation unless you have something to hide?
Who would pay for this investigation? Would that be the REIT?
Well, there are many of us that would help contribute to that.
Okay.
And in fact, we asked, how much did the Pepper Hamilton investigation cost Baylor? And the answer was, we're not at liberty to tell you. And we asked, how much was spent on all of these settlements? We're not at liberty to tell you. And I'm sorry, I don't know why that's a state secret.
So who would pay for this?
The independent investigation, we expect Baylor and the Board of Regents to pick up a large part of the tab, but there's many of us, me included, that would help, that would chip in to fund it.
Out of your own pocket?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Have any of you?
Yeah, I've got a question from the phone.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. This is Jim Versino with the Associated Press, and I apologize if I'm going to ask something that's been asked a little bit before because I can't hear every questions aren't that clear from the folks who are in the room. But you know, I'm just kind of curious as to how transparent. Let's say the board agrees to this investigation. How transparent do you intend to be with the findings of the investigation One of the things that the board has said all along is that there are certain details they can't release or don't want to release in terms of, you know, potentially identifying victims, you know, et cetera. But we're talking transparency here and demands for transparency. How transparent would this group be with the results of the investigation What do we expect to find out publicly?
Other than protecting the victims, and I want to protect the identity of the victims, I want to do everything we can to help and protect those people. But other than that, I think we should be as transparent as possible. Let the chips fall where they may.
Would that include former head football coach Art Riles' interview, former chancellor and president Ken Starr, and former athletic director Ian McCall?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you repeat that question?
Yes, the question was, does that include former coach Art Riles, former chancellor and president Ken Starr, and former athletic director Ian McCall? And the answer is yes. We want full transparency. Let's let the chips fall where they may. Full transparency, but protecting the victims.
Have any of you decided to?
Yes.
He's next, I think.
Excuse me, on the phone. Hang on just 1 second.
Have any of you decided to withhold donations or lessen donations to the university?
That's a sensitive subject. I will let others speak for themselves. I have heard people say that they are withholding donations. I'll let them speak for that. I'm in a very difficult situation. I've made commitments to Baylor for the field at the football stadium, and it's something I'm wrestling with at the moment. And I hope the board will go forward with transparency and we'll put all that behind us.
From y'all talking in a quiet room, but not with the cameras on, are you really getting a feel from these Board of Regents that they realize things are bad?
No, it is my impression that they are somewhat inside of a bubble and don't know the depth of the skepticism of the board, and that they are I don't think, we emphasized it very strongly today. This is not going away. This will not heal itself. This will not be solved with you just making a few changes from governance. We were very emphatic about that, and I hope they understand that, but I did not get a sense that, from what they told us, that they appreciate or understand the depth of the issue. Mark or Randy, do y'all have any thoughts on that?
I think they're pretty secure with the decisions they've made, I believe.
I think.
Hi, this is Jim again.
Can I ask a question over the phone?
Jim, you want to follow up and then?
Yeah, just real fast. Who were the regents you met with today?
Carrie Gray, Joel Allison, and Jerry Clements.
Jerry what?
Clements,
Clemens?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question over the phone?
Please.
Okay, this is Stephanie with KFSG in Waco. My question is, I wasn't clear if you were saying part of this independent investigation, would you like to find out, I guess, the reason behind the firing of Coach Art Biles, Ian McCall, and President Starr? Is that the part of the findings you're looking for?
Well, I think it needs to be broader than that. The investigation needs to go as to why Title IX was never fully implemented. We need to look at the decision-making process of the board, the facts that were given to the board, and give us enough information to see if the board acted appropriately in the actions they took. But we need to have the facts in order to be able to judge if the board acted appropriately.
And when you're talking about actions, are you talking about the firing of those 3 members?
Well,
staff members?
that's certainly part of it, and then if they our question becomes, if they fired them for cause, if they actually did something wrong, how many millions of dollars did they pay as a result of that? Because everyone knows if you're fired for cause, you're not owed any money. So one of the points of investigation is, did they really do something wrong? And if they really did something wrong, why would you pay them any money if you did? But we're being blocked from discovering those important facts.
Well, there have been some Board of Regents that have been handpicked to speak nationally, and they have done that. And a week and a half ago, I believe, right in the middle of the week, made some strong comments. And now we jump over to Ian McCall being hired at Liberty University, which Jerry Falwell's initial institution, run by his son now. They say that their fact of findings and investigating this case, Ian McCall never turned his head to any gang rapes. Are those other questions that just keep lingering, that, wow, we're getting 2 to 3 different stories?
And John Eddie, you may want to summarize that question in case they can't hear on the phone.
Yeah. So if I may summarize it, the question is, as I get it, the gist of it is, we hear some regents making selected comments to the press, and then we have Jerry Falwell saying he did an investigation that Ian McCall did nothing wrong when they hired him, Ian at Liberty University. And the question then is, does that create, I guess, some doubt about the facts and events? And absolutely it does create doubt, and that's why we have conflicting information, and even between the coaches and select board members, we have conflicting information between what Liberty University has found and what Baylor has found, and that gives rise to another reason why we believe that a strong independent investigator to look at everything would help put this to rest.
Did
Any
the
other questions?
Did the regents ask anything of any of you? What would they like to hear from you?
Well, they didn't. They did not want to talk about, in my opinion, observation. They didn't want to talk about transparency. They wanted us to give them suggestions about governance. We think that before you get to governance reform, you must have all the facts and have transparency. There was a suggestion that we not go to the press, and there was a suggestion that we delay going to the press. We did not feel that was appropriate.
Did the regents you met with explain why the chair wasn't one of the people you met with today?
He wasn't available, out of town. And I think fairly I think we're told on some kind of mission, so I understand that. We could have arranged it when he could have been here, but I don't know the facts.
If they drag their feet on this third-party investigation and broader investigation, obviously we have years and years and years of law here. Any word or thought on y'all's part down the road, we may have to just take this to lawsuit?
We're hopeful that we can get them to do the right thing by Baylor alumni coming together, supporting our group, letting the regents know that they're not going to stand for what's happened. There must be transparency. And we're going to try and do everything we can to do it through public pressure.
What would you like to see the timetable be?
I would think that they should get back with us. I think a week is plenty of time for them to get back with us to tell us whether or not they will support an independent investigation, and we can then move and have another face-to-face meeting, I hope, and talk about who that person would be, scope, and things of that nature. So hopefully we'll hear back from them in a week.
So if there's an agreement to bring someone, like by when would you want an investigation to be done?
I would think immediately hire somebody within the next 30 days would be appropriate. And let them tell us how quickly they can do it, depending on the amount of resources they need and how much information is already available that they can start from. But you can't get it done until you get it started.
And you said that you and other members of the BLR would be willing to help pay for that?
Yes. I can speak for me, and another member has already said that he would contribute, and we would be happy to help defray the cost. And I think that there'd be a lot of members of the Baylor family that would help contribute to, if it's truly an independent investigation.
John Eddie, this is Brad Reagan at the Wall Street Journal. Did I understand you that the regents acknowledged having agreed to some sort of oath of secrecy related to this?
Brad, it's not, I call it an oath of secrecy. They call it let me look at my notes here. They would defend it as a statement of commitment and responsibilities, which to me, all it does is gag people from having an independent voice, and they cannot speak up, nor can they can't criticize the board, nor can they speak with their own voice when they're gagged by such a commitment.
And that is part of their standard agreement as being a regent, or that was specific to this investigation?
I was told that it was implemented in July of 2016, and that prior to that they had some other type of non-disclosure agreement, but the most recent one was put in July of 2016. Not really. They claim, oh, it's usual and standard, and to which we respond, these are unusual times, and this is an important matter, and we do things openly and in public, if in our democracy.
And also,
Governor?
speaking as a Baptist, that is about as contrary to Baptist doctrine and principle as you can imagine. The Baptist Church is founded upon the free will and the ability of the priesthood of the believer, and that means everybody has an equal voice in the decision making in the church, and to extend it to all possible, everybody who's associated with Baylor University, the staff, faculty, or regent should have the ability to speak out and openly about matters of conscience, and I think that is a very major tenet in the faith of the Baptist Church, as well as the biggest Baptist educational institution in the world.
Was that Mark?
That was Governor White, yes.
Okay.
And can you explain how the meeting today started? Who initiated that conversation?
Who initiated the meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me have the governor.
Well, I received a call from the vice chairman of the board asking if we would like to visit about that. So I was very encouraged by their overture, and I think our response has been very quickly. We quickly responded to their overture, and we had as we said earlier, Randy, we had a very spirited conversation today, and we had everything was on the table. There was nobody was pulling any punches. I think we made some progress. I know that they were not in a position to make a commitment on behalf of the whole board, but I don't think they're going to go away from this meeting today with any lack of understanding of our solidarity on these issues and our complete commitment to see it to a fair conclusion.
Any other questions?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Suzanne Holloman from Austin Administration. John Eddie, since you're a lawyer, how much do you think, could you estimate that such an independent investigation will cost?
I'm guessing that, and I'm just guessing that it's going to be more than $1 million, but how much more I don't know. It's just a guess, but it's sure worth
Can I
it.
ask another question? Oh, sorry.
Sure.
But, the other thing is, I keep reading off-the-record comments about who Pepper Hamilton spoke with, including that they didn't speak with any of the football players or students who were actually accused of sexual assault. Is this your understanding that the only people they spoke with were victims and people associated with the victims?
It was confirmed in today's meeting that Pepper Hamilton did not speak with any of the athletes.
Thank you.
Are we going to speak to any of the accused?
I don't know the answer to that.
What was the question?
The question was, did Pepper Hamilton speak to any of the accused?
I think they did speak to some of the accused.
Yeah, I don't know that. Randy may know. I don't know. This is John Eddie. I don't know for a fact.
We've heard in the last week or 10 days, they're talking, over and over. We've heard from the beginning there is no written Pepper Hamilton report. Then in the last few days, we've heard we're going to consider maybe releasing some more information. I think every one of us in this room know that if you're going to sit and get a massive investigation report given to a large board over 13 hours or 2 different days, you're going to have some kind of notepad, some kind of notes, some kind of computer, some kind of program, something that you have that you are able to make that presentation from. Now we seem to be hearing smatterings, yeah, we might have something, and we might look at that.
Well, first of all, we're not interested in the salacious details of of a lot of these events. What we really, and we want to protect the victims, but like you, it is incomprehensible that there's not something in writing. There absolutely was a presentation, and that presentation I've heard was a PowerPoint. That's a written document in itself. Why isn't that PowerPoint out there so, after protecting victims so that we can judge it whether it's truthful or accurate? The whole fact that they didn't put it in writing, who asked that it not be in writing? Who asked that? Who does that benefit? That doesn't make any sense. And for people to say it would take months to put it in writing, that is a complete fallacy. I've been practicing law 38 years. If the client says put it in writing, you put it in writing and you do it quickly. That is a smokescreen that it would have taken months to put it in writing. That's ridiculous. But the reality is, we have lost faith. A lot of the Baylor families lost faith in the process because Pepper Hamilton, who would even agree not to put it in writing? Who would then tell you there's nothing in writing when you know there's a PowerPoint? Who would, and they didn't interview everybody involved. It was incomplete. So it casts doubt on the Pepper Hamilton conduct and investigation.
John Eddie, you said that you were stonewalled when you asked about the financial situation of Baylor. How much is this costing? You've given to Baylor a long time. Is that sort of information you have heard before this scandal erupted?
I've never had the need to ask them.
I don't know that we've ever had a scandal quite like this at Baylor University before. Certainly went through a difficult time with the basketball situation and the player, but the breadth of this and the amount of legal proceedings and the amount of staff that's been involved, I think is unprecedented at Baylor.
And the secrecy surrounding it. That's unprecedented that everything's under some code of secrecy, and then we'll dribble out a few facts as we see fit. Just doesn't pass the smell test. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Y'all want to know what I want for Christmas?
Answers?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.